Okay, good morning, everybody. It is 11:04, January 5th, 2022. We are here at a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners for 7 items posted on our agenda. I do not believe we have any amendments or revisions to make on this agenda. 1, we have Planning Commission Board appointments. 2, Board of Review appointments. 3, Board of Adjustment appointments. 4, Library Board appointments. 5, award of RFP for project management for the Justice Center. 6, amendment to Anderson Hallas Architects contracts to add design for Lake County Jail, life safety improvements. And 7, our final item going into executive session pursuant to C.R.S. 24-6, 402, 4A, B, and E for the purpose of receiving information and legal advice, as well as determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations in relation to use of county roads and property for commercial purposes by off-highway vehicle guides and private for-profit operators. Any changes or concerns with the agenda?
None for me.
None for me.
All right. I will post that in the chat. Okay. Alrighty. So we might have to, let me pull up, we'll go into our first agenda item, Planning Commission Board appointments. These appointments should be relatively straightforward. Commissioner Fiedler, I don't know if you have the Library Board appointments.
I do not.
Okay. That's fine. We can table that then. But we do have, I saw Board of Review, Planning Commission, and do we have the Board of Adjustment, Kayla?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And it looks like, so we had 3 regular seats open on the Planning Commission and 1 alternate, I believe. We had several letters of interest submitted, 2 of which came from existing planning commissioners whose terms were expiring expired at the very end of last year, interested in continuing to serve. The recommendation that came to us, which I am trying to find formally in here from the Planning Commission, I believe was to reseat Planning Commissioner Heather Lind and Howard Tritz, to award a voting seat to Joey Edwards. And I don't know if they made a recommendation on an alternate, but there was also some advocacy from the commission to include a consideration for Jamie Cipher. And so I personally think that all sounds great. And I wonder what the board, if the board has any comments on those considerations.
I don't have any comments at this point.
Yeah, me either. I didn't have any reason to disagree with their recommendation. So.
All right. Hearing no greater discussion on that, I am happy to entertain the motion for the appointment. And I will make it clear, I guess, there is a vacancy. One of the 3 voting was a vacancy. And so that term should be different than the 2 of the regular voting members. And so I guess I would suggest that we, maybe I'll do these separately. I'll entertain a motion. Let's talk about 2 terms that have expired and replacing those 2. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Heather Lind and Howard Tritz to the Planning Commission in starting new terms.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. said that already. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go with the Planning Commission's recommendation of appointing Joey Edwards to the vacant voting seat of the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
None for me. Thank
None
you.
for me.
All right, all those in favor, aye.
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 All right, and then I will entertain a motion to appoint Jamie Cipher as an alternate member of the County Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
None for me.
All right, all those in favor, aye.
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 Great. Moving on to the Board of Review. We have a recommendation from the Board of Review to seat Ethan Kirk and Cameron Millard. They have been serving on the Board of Review, to seat them in new terms now to expire December of 2024.
Can we add an alternate to the Board of Review?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Chris, can we add an alternate?
Anne might know that, and Anne is not available right now. She is going into a staff. Why don't we, maybe we can,
You want to table this one?
I was gonna say, because I'd need to look at their operating to see if the organization documents allow for alternates versus.
Sure. Okay, yeah, there's no, I think the only real rush on making some appointments today was the Planning Commission, because there's the January 10th hearing on the backcountry zoning, which would happen before we intend to pass and consider our first resolution of the year, which typically appoints and makes all those appointments to our boards. So there's no, I don't think there's any reason that this has to be done today and can't also be tabled if you have that question. I'm okay
Yeah,
with
because we did have an additional application for the Board of Review.
Right.
So I don't have any of that information forward on to me from Anne or Paul about the applications or the letters for the Board of Review.
Okay.
But it might be helpful to have an alternate for that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to look and see what the.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, that cuts a few things off the agenda then. So we'll table the Board of Review appointments to the 18th. Our next regular meeting will be on the 18th, as the 17th is a holiday. And Board of Adjustments, we want to table that as well, or are we ready to?
I have that one.
Okay, then we'll do that next. If you could.
So we have 4 members on the Board of Adjustments. We have Mark Wadsworth, whose term expires in December of 2023. Kayla Marcella, my term expires at the end of 2022. Amy Tate and Larry Markham, Larry is the alternate, Amy is a regular member. Their term expired December of 2021. And so they have submitted letters to re-up their terms as members of the Board of Adjustment. And they were the only letters that we had received for the Board of Adjustment. So I would make a motion that we approve Amy Tate as a regular member of the Board of Adjustment.
Also moved.
Okay.
Second. Any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
Okay.
None for me.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I will make a motion that we approve Larry Markham as an alternate member of the Board of Adjustment.
So moved. Second.
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 Yep. Any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, great. Okay, very good. We'll do the Board of Review and Library Board on the 18th.
Okay.
Okay, moving into item number 5, award of the RFP for project management for the Justice Center. We have Katy Welter here, who's been our facilitator of this process, which we are so grateful for. Katy, if you want to take that away and give us some background then. And this is in part why we've kind of consolidated our meeting to today for the timeline posted through this RFP process.
Thanks, commissioners. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and walk through what the RFP process has been like, and then we'll share with you all the recommendation from the evaluation committee for selecting a contractor. The RFP for project management services for the Lake County Community Justice Center was issued on November 15th of 2021. We received 3 bids for those services. We conducted a pre-proposal conference, interviewed each of those bidders, contacted their references, and then the evaluation committee met to evaluate all of that information and make a recommendation. The bids we received were from 3 firms, Dynamic Program Management, CBRE, and a firm called Wember. And, you know, just want to say we received all very, very highly qualified bids from what appear to be excellent firms with excellent reputations. And so this was a solid process, and also the county's just, it's a good sign that the county is able to attract professionals like we did with these bids. The evaluation committee scored using a scoring matrix based on the purchasing policies evaluation criteria. Each bidder was scored using the same criteria on both quality and price. So the purchasing policy allows the county to select a bidder based on more than just price for these services. The committee recommendation after evaluating those bids was that the county select Dynamic Program Management to perform the desired services, and it recommend that they would perform them with the highest quality and best value to Lake County for the following reasons. And this is part of your packet as well. Number 1, Dynamic Program Management, or DPM, and its principal, Colleen Caneda, have an excellent track record of completing significant projects in Leadville and Lake County. And Colleen would serve as the project lead. 2, the firm and its team are located in the Central Mountain region and specialize in rural and mountain projects, which we deem to be necessary, if not, or at the very least, incredibly valuable to Lake County. 3, county commissioners, at least 2 of you, have multiple firsthand and extremely positive experiences working with the firm. 4, the firm has proven relationships with high quality contractors, materials, and service providers who will provide timely and quality service in Lake County. Now, this bid was not the lowest bid that the county received, and per the purchasing policy, if a bid other than the lowest bid is recommended, then the evaluation committee must demonstrate how that higher bid serves the best interests of the county. And so the evaluation committee did feel that despite not it being one of the higher bids, that it would still serve the interests of the county for the following reasons. Number 1, DPM and its principal, again, Colleen Caneda, have demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to the people and institutions of Lake County, which we feel confident will generate great value in designing and construction, design and construction of our community's justice center. According to references, including many local references, DPM is managed to completion within schedule and budget and to the satisfaction of their clients. Many of the most significant facilities projects in our community, including 5 projects with the school district, which include the Lake County High School and West Park Elementary. They're working on the Southern Fire Station presently and have done significant projects with High Mountain Institute. They clearly understand and work well within the unique conditions and features of Leadville and Lake County, which the committee also believes will generate value. And then finally, the county has good reason to discount the importance of price in this instance, at least to some extent. That's because for this coming year, 2022, the county will be reimbursed in full for its expenditures for this item. And that's through the Underfunded Courthouse Facilities Commission grant, which is a no match grant and has budgeted adequate funds to cover this cost next year. Do you have any questions for me about the process? The evaluation committee, I should have stated, included myself, the project facilitator, the county attorney, Chris Floyd, county manager, Tim Bergman, and county commissioner, Kayla Marcella.
I guess I had a question for clarification, and I think sort of in reading over the materials, my understanding is that the lower price from CBRE and Wember in large part reflects lower estimated hours. So, you know, and I guess the question is, can you confirm that?
Yeah, so the per hour rate was comparable between the three firms. But dynamic program management estimated considerably more hours, and I can pull those exact numbers for you, than the other two firms. That was a point that we discussed with all of the firms. One of the ways that dynamic program management responded to that issue is to say that they would, their proposal is for an hourly rate with a not to exceed amount over the entire project period of, let me pull up the number here. $489,903 over a 3-year project period. What that does is it can give the county comfort that if dynamic program management's estimated hours end up being high, the county will only pay for the hours of service that it receives. And if they end up being, if their estimate was low and they spend more time, the county will pay no more than that not to exceed number.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So, I mean, I'll just make that comment. I mean, I feel like it's not, I appreciate you going, you know, honoring the letter of the procurement policy, but it feels like DPM isn't really that more expensive, you know, in terms of the services we would receive in practice. And I mean, for me, I feel like that's kind of a strike against CBRE and Wember to underestimate the attention they're going to pay to the project.
I think it was also very, I think it was also very telling in our interview with Colleen as well, that she, when we did ask her about the hours that she had proposed to incorporate into the project, she said that she felt as though that was a very honest answer from her firm, given our organizational capacity. And so she felt like, knowing what she knows about the operations in Lake County and about the project back to 2016, that would be a fair amount of hours for her, and that she couldn't anticipate doing it any lower than what she had bid. And so just to kind of piggyback off what you were talking about, if the other firms got to the point where they breached the hours that Colleen had originally proposed, the bids would be relatively similar.
Yeah.
So I felt like Colleen was very transparent with us about the amount of time that her firm would spend dedicated to this project.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I know, yeah, she's been involved in a lot of projects, and that capacity piece and understanding just what you're getting into is so important, especially for us. And we've run into that problem with other contractors that kind of, you know, well, this typically takes X amount of hours, and not realizing, you know, just what our kind of structure or reality might be. But yeah, that sounds great. I really appreciate you going through that, Katie. That's very helpful, and outlining all those criteria and the reasons for the advisement to choose the recommendation for DPM.
The interviews were really great. I mean, it was definitely a really tough decision, and really hard for us to wade through all of those proposals, because they were really great proposals. We just feel like with a project, or I guess I should just say that I feel like for a project of this magnitude that the county hasn't undertaken before, I feel very confident with the recommendation of DPM.
Excellent. Do we have other questions or for Katy?
Well, the only thing I wanted to do is just to publicly thank Katy for her work on this. So she did a stellar job of putting together the RFP, collecting the information, analyzing it, providing summaries and all that kind of stuff. And so really want to thank her for that part of her service as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Katy.
It was a good learning experience to hear from the bidders, and thanks to Chris and Commissioner Marcella and Tim for doing everybody spent quite a bit of time on this. And let me just say that the purchasing policy did not require the county to go through a public formal procurement process. And we could have applied the professional services exemption, but I think the county wisely decided to make sure that this was a competitive process to find the highest quality, greatest value provider.
Absolutely.
So with that, I will make a motion that we award the RFP for project management of the Justice Center project to Dynamic Program Management.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Fantastic.
Yeah.
Item number 6 then is our amendment to Anderson Hallas Architects contract to add designs for Lake County Jail life safety improvements. I'll let you go ahead and take that away again, Katy, please.
Yeah, sure. And we have, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to, so next steps are to actually like sort of sign or execute that contract. Who's on that go through county? Okay.
Yeah.
We've
So
got a draft, and so I've reached out to Colleen to see if we can kind of get that process in terms of finalizing that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
not right now. No.
Yeah.
Crystal will notify this afternoon. We'll notify, with working with her on notification to the bidders who were rejected, and then notification to Colleen for DPM. And I know she's ready to start the onboarding process as soon as possible. So we'll get going with that too.
Excellent.
In terms of this next item, just to give a little bit of background. So as everyone knows, the Lake County Jail has been closed for now almost 3 years. And the main reason for closing that, the jail for any kind of use, even as a holding cell, has been the determination of life safety risks within the existing facility. Anderson Hallas Architects, who has been working with us for some time on the Justice Center project, actually volunteered. I think we determined that they did not charge for the additional work to just help us understand what changes could be made within the existing jail facility to address some of those life safety risks, so that at least 2 cells, or not at least 2 cells, could be used for holding cell purposes, not for long-term detention, but holding for up to 48 hours. In multiple conversations with Judge Seamus and Sheriff Reyes, we've determined that will alleviate an enormous burden for the county, and especially for law enforcement and the courts, as most individuals can see Judge Seamus within that 48-hour period. And in fact, soon under law, will have to see Judge Seamus within that period, or any judge. And so that will allow folks to be seen and potentially released without having to be transferred to a different county for detention purposes, or sorry, for just that holding purpose. Some folks will continue to need to be detained off-site, but that's a very small number as a proportion of the overall. Anyhow, this is much needed. I think it will generate immediate cost savings when it's completed. And today's item is specifically to consider an amendment to Anderson Hallas's current contract to add additional work, which would include drawings, preliminary drawings, that a contractor and the county's project manager will use to implement the changes within the jail so that it can be used as a holding cell. We have with us on the call now, Squier, who's principal architect with Anderson Hallas, and Brandon Gossard, the project architect, and I'll let them explain anything else they'd like to about their proposed amendment.
Thanks, Katy, and hello all. Happy New Year. Yeah, the approach we took to this, because obviously the existing building has a lot of challenges. We've been dealing with this for some time, notwithstanding obviously the jail component itself, is to try and look at low-hanging fruit, kind of the basic, the fundamental improvements that we need to make from a life safety standpoint to put this back into operation, as was explained by Katy. We think the approach, because of the existing building, because some of the complexities that an existing building can present, of working closely with a general contractor, and that, as I understand, Katy, is generally in place.
Yes.
And it's a great contractor, one we've worked with extensively on separate projects. It's kind of a collaborative design build almost approach that we need to bring to this, because there's things that could be discovered once we start to try to correct the locking mechanisms, et cetera. And, we want to do our best to foresee any unknown conditions to mitigate cost exposure and try to do, the most comprehensive job we can do to outline the scope of work for a general contractor. But it would be, it would be naive to think that we'd be able to put together a perfect set of drawings that dictates exactly every screw, nut, and bolt like we would do for new construction would need to be done to achieve this. So I think working back and forth with a contractor absolutely is the right approach for this. So we're very comfortable with this. We think it's the most cost-effective approach for the county to get this up and running again. With that as a high-level overview, Brandon, why don't you just kind of walk through sort of the scope quickly that we're looking at doing, just to make sure everyone sort of understands the limits of which we're proposing to make improvements.
Are we looking through, do you want us to look through the amended budget that we have? What's that?
Yeah, you guys have that. Wells and Brandon, the commissioners have the budget and the amendment itself.
Okay. Sure. I don't know that that's necessary. I mean, if it would help on your end, we can do that by all means, Sarah, or Commissioner Mudge, my apologies. Why don't we talk about, Brandon, just kind of talk about what this entails, right? From a design standpoint, kind of the scope that we've settled on, working with our detention specialist as well to kind of put together the right program of work here. And then if there's questions, we're happy to answer those or dive into the, into the breakdown in more detail.
Okay, that works for all of us. Very good.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Audio's good. So yeah, as Wells was mentioning, we were looking at trying to approach this in a very narrowly tailored fashion to address the life safety concerns, so that we are meeting the obligations to preserve health, safety, and welfare, but we're also balancing that against trying to limit the amount of additional investment in infrastructure that won't remain in that facility forever with the new Justice Center. As such, we are really focused on 2 cells that are kind of in the best condition to be able to be modified to address those life safety issues. And that's things like reach range from inside the bars, minimizing the opportunity for self-harm. There's some concerns within that particular portion of the building where there's an exposed soffit that there have been instances in the past where in custody individuals have been able to actually break through the wall and reach interior framing members. So really heightening the durability of the finishes within those holding areas. And then also looking at providing supplemental heating as a priority, potentially supplemental cooling for that area because of the thermal issues that are present in that space. The last item that we're really looking at is the locking mechanisms. Right now, the locks inside the jail are very much a legacy locking mechanism. And so we would be looking at retrofitting not only locks to those cells, but also the locks to allow for intake and the locks to get to the shower. So that way it will allow the entire intake process to be kind of incorporated into this life safety upgrade, but still narrowly tailoring it so we're not improving things that really would require a lot more capital investment. So that's kind of the summary of the capital improvements. I mean, it is a testament to a dynamic program management that they brought on, the contractor there that we have experience with, and really alleviated a lot of our concerns when we're talking about creating just a preliminary set and then working in concert with them to create a product. We believe that this will create the best product at the lowest cost to the county.
And speaking of cost, so in addition, the amendment today being considered for Anderson Hallas' services for $22,281, I think $283. Along with that, we do have a construction cost estimate of $165,000. And then Colleen Caneda with Dynamic Program Management has been helping with kind of move this along, but when she's involved formally with it, she would be billing at an hourly rate. But I think a ballpark right now cost estimate for all the services is $200,000. And in my understanding is we're still looking at a 4 to 6 month time period to complete the work. From today is really when the clock starts ticking. And FCI did confirm that was realistic for them. They will be in Leadville this spring working on a school district project. So that's convenient for them as well.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. I know we haven't necessarily made the formal decision, but we've had the discussion as a board in some work sessions to use ARP funds to get this project done and get it done as swiftly as possible. We realize all those kind of cascading implications to the justice office and law enforcement operations that this will hopefully relieve. And
are we still going to ask the city to partner in that?
Yes. Yeah, the city also, we had conversations with the city to share in that cost, which I realize is not necessarily part of your concern. Just like to share that out publicly. That was definitely, we've had those conversations. So, and that is within the ballpark of what, this kind of cost range we've been expecting the whole time. So, very important. Great. I thank you for that presentation, Wells and Brandon. I really don't have any other questions for you personally.
I had one question. Do we have a point of contact for this project in the sheriff's office? Like, or can we get one?
Well, maybe
it's a good question.
But really like facilities. I mean, probably the prime point of contact needs to be Michael Irwin with Public Works. But then certainly that all needs to be coordinated through the help of Tim and Colleen and FCI and Michael and the sheriff and or whoever of her staff for their alternate plans in how they're going to go about their day-to-day business.
Yeah, I mean, just there's some staff transition there, and I mean, it's going to be their facility, so
that's a great point. I'll make sure Colleen is aware that Michael Irwin needs to be involved, and then certainly the sheriff too. The sheriff has been, and her staff have been present on multiple visits of the facility with the professionals involved, including the contractor and Colleen. So she's really been instrumental in trying to figure out what kind of changes we can make that will work for her team and not be too disruptive during the construction process as well.
Perfect.
Katie, the only suggestion I would make to Colleen is maybe to convene a group similar to what she has for the Southern Fire Station weekly calls. I think those are really helpful, and it seems to have a lot of the same players on it. It might just be a suggestion that you can pass on.
Yep. Thank you for including this on today's agenda. We did want to move, since none of the project can continue without the drawings. We wanted to really move forward with Anderson Hallas, and they worked hard to get this amendment together timely for us. The amount, just want to touch on the purchasing policy element real quick to say that this amount normally would of money to spend normally would be subject to or you would be required to do formal procurement for it. However, it is exempt from that process as an amendment to an existing contract. And also, all of the work is exempt from formal procurement under the county's emergency procurement exemption, given that this has been, even though it's been an ongoing emergency, it really has not become any less of one.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
All right.
Thank you, Wells. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, happy to entertain a motion.
Yep. I will make a motion that we approve the amendment to the Anderson Hallas Architects contract to add designs for the Lake County Jail life safety improvements.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
For me, just, I mean, thanks for pulling this together. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and bye. Thanks so much, Katie. All right, and going into item number 7, our last item on our agenda, the board intends to go into executive session pursuant to C.R.S. 24-6-402 4A, B, and E for the purpose of receiving information and legal advice, as well as determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations in relation to use of county roads and property for commercial purposes by off-highway vehicle guides and for private for-profit operators. I would just like to say before we make a motion to go into executive session that this is a very preliminary conversation among the board, the first that we've been able to really have together on these couple topics. And we've seen a lot of response from the community on motorized use in particular. And so we understand that there is a checklist and a way that we maybe want to go through and kind of assess our current documentation and revisit perhaps permitting and looking at some, designating some other details for this use. It's a huge topic for the community. So we take that very seriously. The intention of today's meeting is not to come out with any decision-making in changing regulations, but rather a checklist of next steps, one of which will certainly include planning for a number of work sessions, probably a town hall, and just forums where there will be public forums where the board can solicit that feedback from the community, similar to kind of the process that we're going through with the backcountry zoning. This is a legislative matter, and so there aren't quasi-judicial, it follows a different path than quasi-judicial process. And so again, we'll follow that similar kind of path that we have with backcountry and a number of work sessions, town hall, to solicit feedback and be able to make the best decision in conjunction with staff. Any other comments before we move to go into executive session?
No, thank you.
No.
Okay. And I will say to our, if you would maybe make that motion, and also, Anne from Land Use is here. And so maybe just acknowledge that we'll include the board, county attorney, county manager, and Ann Schneider from Land Use in our conversation.
Sure. I will make a motion that we move into executive session pursuant to C.R.S. 24-6-402 4A, B, and E for the purpose of receiving information and legal advice, as well as determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations in relation to use of county roads and property for commercial purposes by off-highway vehicle guides and private for-profit operators.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. And at 11:44, we will move into executive session.
Can Anne come upstairs?
Yeah.
If she, why don't we let her stay?
We need to have a
She
separate Zoom, I
has
think.
to end though at noon for a different
Oh,
meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Can we send her a Zoom link?
yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna send you a Zoom link.
Okay, and then this, again, sorry for awareness. We are not sure exactly how long the conversation will take. We've scheduled this meeting until about 1 o'clock. But unfortunately I can't give the audience any definite time in which we'll come back to this Zoom link, but we will return and come out of executive session and then close up the meeting.